Protective styles are not protective at all. Like I said, long-term protective styles are likely to have negative effects on your hair. Royalty, it's your girl, the one and only Afro Link, and you know what time it is. You know the vibe, you know what's popping, you know that anytime I come on here, I'm always here to give you the tea. I'm always here to give you the juice on everything natural hair and beauty. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about protective styling and how protective styling can be potentially bad for your natural hair. Now, before I dive into that, I would want us to talk about what is this protective style, because you go online in the natural hair community, you hear protective style, protective styling, protective style, protective styling. So what is this protective style? Protective style is any hairstyle that you put your hair in to protect your hair from the environment and also protect your hair from yourself. For people who have ants in hair syndrome, who are constantly touching their hair, pulling their hair, which is bad for your natural hair, when you put your hair in a protective style, you're less likely to want to touch your hair and pull your hair. In terms of protecting your hair from the environment, when you put your hair in a protective style, it does not dry out as fast as it would if you leave your hair out in a fro. Your hair does not get tangles and knots as easily as it would if you leave it out in a fro. Those are basically the major benefits of protective styling. One of the misconceptions when it comes to protective styling is the fact that people believe that a style can only be protective if it is done with extensions. Now that's a misconception. Like I said, if a hairstyle can protect you from pulling your hair, it's a protective style. For example, if your hair is in a twist or in braids or in cornrows, those are also protective styles. It's because it protects your hair from yourself, pulling your hair, touching your hair. It also protects your hair from getting tangled and all of that stuff. Another thing to know about protective styling is that there are two types of protective styling: short-term protective styles and long-term protective styles. This is determined based on how long you leave your protective style in. In my opinion, short-term protective styles are hairstyles that I would leave in within 7 to 10 days, and long-term protective styles are protective styles that I will leave in maybe 14 to 21 days or maximum a month. This duration also differs from person to person, but a lot of people would consider hairstyles that you leave in for a week as short-term protective styles. Most times, short-term protective styles do not have negative effects on your hair as long-term protective styles would. Long-term protective styles are likely to have negative effects on your hair because a lot of people leave their hair in a protective style and do nothing to their hair. They believe that, oh, my hair is in a protective style, so I don't even have to clean it, I don't even have to moisturize, I don't even have to do anything. Just because it's in a protective style, my hair is protected for even as long as 2 months. That's a major misconception, and that would lead to your hair getting damaged because over time your hair would become dry. And as much as some people would say, oh, but I moisturize when I have my hair in a protective style, that's moisture may not be enough for your natural hair, because obviously your hair is packed together, and as much as you would try to introduce water into your hair, it may not get into your hair strands as it would if you would wash your hair loosely or if you would apply water to your hair when it is loose. Another reason why protective style can be potentially bad for your natural hair is that when you leave your hair in a long-term protective styles, the amount of build-up is on another level. Most times you would notice that, especially when you use extensions for your long-term protective styles, or even when you leave your natural hair in a long-term protective style, say 2 months or so, you would notice that towards the roots of your hair, you would see like whitish gunk towards the roots of your hair. Those are product build-up, and if you have a sensitive scalp, leaving your hair in a long-term protective style may not be best for you because your scalp will be irritated, and that will just lead to a whole another issue for you, especially if you have scalp issues. Another reason why long-term protective styles or even short-term protective styles could be potentially bad for your natural hair is if you do tight braids. Please, in all that you do when you install protective styles on your natural hair, please do not install tight braids. That could potentially lead to traction alopecia. It could rip out your edges. A lot of people complain about how they used to have full edges and now they do not have as much as they used to. One of the major reasons for that could be that you're installing tight protective styles. One thing I noticed when I returned natural and I stopped installing tight braids is the fact that I thought I had full edges, but when I stopped installing tight braids and I returned natural, I realized that my hairline actually improved. I'll show you a picture of that. My hairline improved so much, I did not know how terrible installing tight braids were for my hair until I stopped installing tight braids, and then I saw the improvement in my hairline. For some people who do not install tight braids but they somehow realize that they've been losing their edges, one of that reason could be that the extensions you use in your hair are super heavy and your hair can hardly hold the weight of the extension. Some of you may have noticed this, especially when it comes to box braid. If your hairstyle is braids around your edges, you would notice that after a while, when your hair is growing, you would notice that the extension is pulling your hair, and that can be potentially bad for your natural hair. Am I saying that you shouldn't use extensions on your hair or you shouldn't braid your hair anymore? No. What I am saying is that when you use extensions on your hair, you should use an appropriate amount of extension that will not be heavy for your natural hair. Professional hairstylists, they know that they should do this, but if you do not trust your hairstylist to be professional enough, you can actually tell them that please use an appropriate amount of extension on my hair so that it's not heavy for my hair to hold. If you have fine hair with medium to low density hair, you should definitely take this advice. A major mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to protective styling is that they go from one protective style to another, especially when it comes to using extension and if you do long-term protective styles. For example, you install braids with extension for 3 weeks, you take down your hair today, the next day you're installing another protective style with extension, you take that down, the next day you're installing another protective style with extension. Doing that consistently, frequently, all the time, even though they are not tight braid, even though the extensions are not heavy, could potentially have effects on your hair. My advice would be to reduce how often you install long-term protective styles with extensions so that you give your hair some room and some time to breathe and just stay moisturized for a longer period of time before you decide to install another protective style. I know you don't want to hear this, but protective styles do not grow your hair. This is something that I have said on this channel over and over and over again. Your hair grows naturally from your scalp. What protective styles could potentially do for you is to help you retain length. Like I said, because it protects you from yourself. When you use your hand to pull your hair, tug at your hair, that may lead to breakage, and that could lead to you losing more hair than the amount of hair that actually grows from your scalp. So protective styles do not help you to grow your hair. What it does is to help you to retain length. For people who love to install protective style, especially long-term protective styles and protective styles with extension, one of the ways that you could protect your hair is to make sure that you install your protective style properly, and you also care for your hair when it is in a protective style. Do not neglect your hair because you feel it's in a protective style and you can just go about your business for weeks without doing anything to it. Before you install your protective style, I would advise that you properly wash your hair, introduce moisture into your hair. You could do a moisturizing deep conditioner before you install a protective style. Or if you notice that your hair is breaking a lot and your hair is not strengthening, then you can do like a protein or a strengthening deep conditioning to your hair before you install the protective style. One thing to note is that the longer you have your braids in, the higher the chances of your hair potentially drying out. Now, it does not matter if you re-moisturize within that period. That process cannot be compared to when you actually wash your hair without it being in an extension. Make sure your hair is in top conditions before you put it in a protective style. If you know that you have scalp issues, deal with that first before putting your hair in a long-term protective style. If you know that your hair is always extremely dry or your hair is breaking excessively, deal with that first before you decide to put your hair in a protective style. Most of the things that I've mentioned that could potentially make protective styles bad for your natural hair are things that are avoidable. Do not braid tightly. Next video after this one, I'll be showing you how I put my hair in short-term protective styles and the benefits of putting my hair in a short-term protective style. If that is something that you would want to see, do make sure to turn on your post notifications so that you get notified when that video is uploaded, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope that you learned something new. If you did learn something new, do share this video with your friends. Give this video a thumbs up as it helps this channel to grow, and also put this video out there for people that really need this information. Thank you so much for watching this video once again, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.